Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Sophie, and this channel is chronicling my journey of living my best life with multiple chronic health conditions. Today I want to give a hopefully short medical update as to how my appointments went last week. I had 2 appointments last week. I saw the gastroenterologist, and things are basically back to a status quo. The esophageal spasms that had been really bad a couple months ago have subsided substantially, and I'm not having them as often, so that's really good. And then the sucrose tolerance test they did was normal, and that's also good. I do have a follow-up in a few months, but I'm not sure I'm going to keep it because I don't really need it. I don't feel like spending money to see a doctor if there's nothing going on to talk to the doctor about. The other appointment I had last week was my cardiology appointment, and it went about as expected. I did have significant pitting edema on my legs, and then my jugular venous distension, which is when they sort of lay you at an angle, have you turn your head, and they watch to see how high the jugular vein distends during the heartbeat. They all sort of confirmed that I was carrying extra fluid. So part of that is because I'm no longer lying down for hours at a time taking the diuretic. I may not lie down at all because I feel that getting sleep is more important. I'm still working on ways to diurese better, but for the moment this is just gonna be what it is. We briefly talked about trying to get some of those pneumatic compression devices, but since I am only on Medicare and they only cover them for lymphedema, not for heart failure, it's unlikely that they would be covered, and I don't really have an extra $200 to $300 to spend on them right now. So hopefully can get some of this fluid off. Need to figure out a better way to diurese. Like I said, I'm taking the diuretics during the day, and sometimes it's just difficult to stop what I'm doing on the computer and take time to lay down for 2+ hours. And even when I do lay down for 2+ hours, I still don't diurese nearly as much as when I was in bed for like 6 hours. So we'll figure something out. It'll all work out eventually. So that's going on there. We talked about the echocardiogram. She says my small left ventricle is just because I'm small. I'm not really tall. So she's not concerned about that. And then the sclerosis on my mitral valve, she's also not concerned about. She said it's probably been there my whole life and it's just the better technology able to see it. Okay, I guess that's possible. But when I've had like cardiac MRI and stuff like that, it was not there. But I mean, who knows? We'll get another echocardiogram end of next year and we'll see what that says. Then lastly, I do have all of my mixed meal tolerance test results, but unfortunately they don't do a report. You just get sort of the raw data. And looking at the raw data, before I go into what it was, we were expecting my insulin to be delayed. First phase delayed insulin, and that is what we thought was going on with my blood sugar. We thought that since the insulin was delayed, it just wasn't sort of getting my blood sugar down quickly enough, and that's why my blood sugar skyrockets and then crashes. That is not at all what happened. What actually happened was my insulin over tripled in the first 30 minutes, so it definitely was not delayed. and it continued increasing. My insulin ended up being about 10 times above the normal range, and my glucose peaked at 272. And again, this is a mixed meal, so this is an Ensure Plus that has carbs, fats, and protein, so you really shouldn't be spiking that much because the protein and fat should be blunting that spike, but it did not do that for me. At 2 hours, my blood sugar was actually higher than it was with just the glucose tolerance test with the 75 grams of glucose. There was more carbohydrates in this test. I believe there was closer to 100 versus the 75. But yes, so just looking at the glucose and insulin, it looks like there's severe insulin resistance going on, though at 4 hours, my blood sugar was all the way down to 103, and then when I got home and checked it at 5 hours, because that's when I go hypoglycemic, my blood sugar was in the low to mid 60s. So that's not insulin resistant. The insulin works, it just appears to take a while. Then recently I had my pro-insulin results come back, and they are also super high. Again, they peaked about 10 times higher than what they should, which is not normal at all. Pro-insulin is the precursor to insulin. So basically my pancreas was just dumping everything it had to get my blood sugar down, which is really hard to find in the research, but apparently it has to do with metabolic inflexibility. It's not that I can't process carbs, it's that if I'm not processing carbs, I have a hard time switching into processing carbs, which makes sense with what helps me and what doesn't. With insulin resistant, we normally tell people to pair your carbohydrates with fiber and protein because it slows the digestion, and we tell them to go for walks after eating carbs because it helps uptake the glucose. None of those strategies work for me. They never have. I have been wearing a CGM pretty consistently for about a year now, and that does not work for me. The only things that seem to work for me are eating fat before eating carbs and exercising before eating carbs. And that also sort of hints at metabolic inflexibility, because with the fat first, not only does it slow the absorption of carbs, which we know isn't my problem because protein and fiber don't do that, but it also keeps my body in fat metabolism for a longer time while the carbs are being slowly absorbed. And exercise before primes my body to receive carbs, so it helps make the switch to carbohydrate metabolism faster and cleaner. I am currently doing my own little experiments with how much fat I need to eat before carbs to not spike my blood sugar. More on that when I'm done with the experiment. I do have quite a few doctor appointments coming up this month. This week alone, I have my dietitian and retina specialist tomorrow, my psych NP on Wednesday, and then my hematologist I will be seeing for the first time because of the likely pathogenic variant of antithrombin 2 or 3, I don't remember, deficiency. So I will be seeing them, and then towards the end of the month I will be seeing an audiologist because I've been having to turn my volume on my computer up higher than normal for a while now, and I normally listen to everything with captions. So we're gonna check my hearing. I think that's it for now. Once I am done with my fat carb experiment, I will make a longer video explaining metabolic inflexibility and my results more, but that's just sort of the overview of what it looks like to me, and my dietitian does agree with that. I've not heard back from my endocrinologist since the pro-insulin results came back, and I have not heard anything about moving up my endocrinology appointment. So all of that is to be continued. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day whenever it is you are seeing this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.